The wind howled outside, rattling the windows like an impatient visitor. The streetlights flickered, casting eerie shadows that stretched across the empty sidewalks. Inside a two-story suburban house, Emily sat alone, curled up on the couch, mindlessly scrolling through her phone. Her parents were out of town for the weekend, leaving her in charge of the Husa privilege she had begged for. At first, it felt like freedom. The house was hers. She could stay up late, watch horror movies, and eat whatever she wanted. But as the night deepened, an uneasy silence settled around her. A soft creak echoed from upstairs. Emily froze. The sound was faint, but distinct, the kind of noise that shouldn't be heard when you know you're alone. She brushed it off as the house settling. A comforting lie, she told herself. Minutes later, another sound, this time a soft tap. It came from the hallway. Her breath hitched. Maybe it was the pipes or the wind against the house. She glanced toward the staircase, where the darkness seemed heavier than before. The shadows looked deeper, as if they had grown denser since she last checked. The tapping came again. Emily swallowed hard. She muted the TV, straining her ears. Silence. Just as she started to relax, her phone vibrated violently in her lap, making her jolt. A text message. Unknown number. You should lock the back door. Her heart lurched. Her fingers trembled as she typed back. Who is this? No response. A creeping dread settled in her stomach. She forced herself to her feet and hurried toward the kitchen, where the back door stood slightly ajar. She was sure she had locked it. Hadn't she? With a shaky breath, she reached for the handle and slammed it shut, locking it tight. Her mind raced. Had someone been inside? Were they still in the house? Another message. Unknown number. That won't help you now. Emily spun around, her eyes darting to every darkened corner of the house. Her fingers hovered over the emergency call button. Then a footstep. Slow. Deliberate. Coming from upstairs. Emily's blood turned to ice. Every horror movie she had ever watched screamed in her mind, "Get out! Run!" But she stood frozen. Another step. Closer this time. With every ounce of courage, she sprinted for the front door, her fingers fumbling at the lock. It wouldn't turn. The knob wouldn't budge. Behind her, the stair creaked. Someone was descending. She dared not turn around. Her breath came in shallow gasps as she pulled desperately at the lock. The footsteps stopped just behind her. A whisper. Low. Ragged. Right next to her ear. You're not alone. The lights flickered, then went out completely. Darkness swallowed her whole. Emily's breath came in sharp, panicked bursts. She could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. The silence that followed was thick, oppressive. A metallic scraping sound came from the hallway. Her phone! She scrambled in her pocket, fingers fumbling to dial 911, but before she could press call, a chilling sensation ran down her spine. Breath. Not hers. It was warm against the nape of her neck, slow and deliberate, as if something was right behind her. She turned instinctively, her body reacting before her mind could catch up. Her fingers found the flashlight on her phone, and she lifted it, trembling. The beam of light cut through the darkness, landing on nothing. But the air was different now, heavier. The house no longer felt like her home. It felt invaded. A vibration in her hand nearly made her drop her phone. Another message. Unknown number. Turn around. Emily's breath hitched. But she had just turned around. There was nothing there. Was there? Slowly, hesitantly, she took a step backward. Her foot landed on something soft. Fabric? A shoe? Dread clawed at her chest as she aimed her flashlight downward. A shoe. Not hers. It was larger, dirty, and damp with something dark. Something red. Her stomach twisted as a sharp pain bloomed in her ankle. Fingers. Cold and strong, they wrapped around her leg, yanking her violently. She hit the ground hard, her phone skidding out of reach. She kicked blindly, struggling against the invisible force, but it was relentless. She was dragged, inch by inch, toward the darkness of the hallway. Then the whisper returned, so close it felt like it was inside her head. You should have run. The last thing she saw before being swallowed by the abyss was the pale, grinning face looming above her, watching. The darkness took her. And then silence. Emily woke with a gasp. Her body was cold, her wrists aching. Her hands were tied. A single light bulb flickered above, revealing she was in the basement, a place she never went. The air was thick with the scent of damp wood and something rotten. Her pulse pounded. Shadows moved in the corners. She wasn't alone. A low rasp echoed around her. She squinted into the darkness, trying to make sense of the shifting shapes. Then, a voice, deeper and more guttural this time. Welcome home. The light bulb flickered again, revealing figures standing along the basement walls. Their faces no. Their grins were too wide, their eyes sunken pits of black. They stood motionless, except for one. A figure emerged from the darkness, stepping closer. Its grin stretched, too far for any human face. Emily's breath caught in her throat. The thing reached out, tilting her chin up with icy fingers. We've been waiting. The basement door slammed shut. The last light flickered out, and Emily screamed.